My entitled sister-in-law ordered a massive tomahawk steak and a $300 bottle of champagne at my promotion dinner, and then slid the massive bill across the table to me. So I looked the waiter dead in the eyes and asked for separate checks. My husband's sister Megan has been pulling this exact same scam for the last 6 years. Every single time we go out to a restaurant as a family, she suddenly develops a taste for the absolute finest luxury dining available. She orders appetizers, top-shelf cocktails, and massive entrees, but magically forgets her wallet every single time the bill arrives. My husband used to just pay it to avoid the family drama, and I hated it, but I always kept my mouth shut. Last weekend, my husband organized a beautiful dinner at an exclusive downtown steakhouse to celebrate my massive promotion at work. He texted the entire family 3 days in advance, explicitly stating that he was covering the bill for him and me, but everyone else needed to handle their own tabs. Megan showed up 30 minutes late, carrying a brand new designer handbag, and didn't even congratulate me on my promotion. She immediately grabbed the menu and ordered a massive tomahawk ribeye truffled lobster mac and cheese and a $300 bottle of vintage champagne. My mother-in-law looked completely panicked, but I just smiled and ate my chicken. Megan spent the entire 2-hour dinner scrolling on her phone and complaining about how the champagne wasn't chilled enough for her liking. When the waiter finally brought the massive $1,200 bill, he set it in the middle of the table. Megan immediately snatched it up, glanced at the total, and slid it directly across the table to me with a massive fake smile. She said, "Congratulations on the new job you can celebrate by treating all of us tonight." Her personal portion of the bill was over $500. I didn't say a single word to her. I just raised my hand, flagged the waiter down, and politely asked him to split the bill so Megan was on her own separate check. Her fake smile instantly vanished and her face turned bright red. She loudly gasped and asked my husband if he was really going to let me embarrass her like this. My husband just shrugged and said, "I told you on Tuesday to bring your own money." She started fake crying, saying she was completely broke and couldn't afford a $500 dinner. My father-in-law sighed and started reaching for his wallet to bail her out like he always does, but I stopped him. I looked at Megan and loudly said, "Nobody forced you to order top-shelf champagne and lobster on a Tuesday, so you can pay for it yourself or wash the dishes in the back." The entire restaurant was staring at our table. Megan realized nobody was going to save her, so she angrily opened her brand new designer bag, pulled out a solid metal platinum credit card, and paid her $500 tab in full without saying another word. She had the money the entire time. She just wanted to use me as her personal ATM. And my mother-in-law actually hugged me in the parking lot and thanked me for finally putting a stop to it.
My entitled seatmate faked a severe medical emergency to steal my first-class seat on a 14-hour flight, so I let the flight attendants call the paramedics and watched her get permanently escorted off the plane, missing her own sister's destination wedding. I had spent 2 entire years saving up my airline miles to buy a first-class ticket for my absolute dream vacation to Japan. When I boarded the plane, I found a middle-aged woman named Susan sitting in my assigned window seat, casually sipping my complimentary champagne. I politely showed her my boarding pass and asked her to move to her actual seat in the back of economy. She rolled her eyes and loudly announced that she was an exhausted mother of 3 and deserved a luxury upgrade much more than a selfish single guy. I didn't argue, I just pressed the flight attendant call button. When the crew arrived and asked Susan to move, she suddenly grabbed her chest and started dramatically gasping for air. She screamed that moving to the cramped back of the plane would trigger her severe heart condition, and that she legally needed to stay in the spacious first-class seat for her medical safety. She looked at me with a massive smug smirk, thinking she had brilliantly outsmarted the system. The flight attendants looked panicked, but I just smiled and told the head purser that if she was having a critical cardiac event, it was a massive liability for the airline to let her fly over the Pacific Ocean. I loudly insisted they follow federal safety protocols and call the airport paramedics immediately. Susan's smug smile completely vanished. She suddenly stopped gasping and tried to stand up, saying she miraculously felt much better and would just go back to economy now, but it was far too late. The captain had already been notified of a medical emergency and completely halted the takeoff. 3 airport police officers and 2 paramedics boarded the plane and forced Susan into a wheelchair. She started crying and screaming that she was just faking it to get a better seat, and that if she missed this specific flight, she would completely miss her sister's wedding in Tokyo. The police didn't care at all. They escorted her completely off the aircraft for falsifying a medical emergency and illegally delaying a federal flight. The airline permanently banned her from flying with them, and I enjoyed a peaceful 14-hour flight with extra champagne and an empty seat next to me.
I had a horrible roommate, and she was the first roommate I ever had. We both had cats, but she never cleaned the litter box. I was the only one doing it. We didn't have a dishwasher, so everything had to be washed by hand. And she never did that either, even though she constantly used my dishes. She would eat my food, especially after she lost her serving job, and would talk about how hard life was as a freelance actor. Meanwhile, her parents lived nearby, supported her financially, and even bought her clothes and furniture whenever she wanted. She was 28, and I was 18, in college full-time with no support from my parents. She never cleaned, never respected shared space, and even used my expensive hair products without asking. And it didn't stop there. She would wear my clothes without permission, and sometimes she would even come into my room, get into my bed while I was sleeping, and wake me up just to talk about her drama. Living with her was exhausting. Eventually, I had enough. After a while, she moved out, and honestly, it was one of the biggest reliefs of my life. This all happened over 10 years ago, and now I can finally look back at it and laugh.
My toxic parents demanded I give my dream wedding venue to my pregnant sister, so I gave her the venue, but took all my fully paid vendors with me. I am the oldest daughter and the classic family scapegoat. My younger sister is the undeniable golden child who has never been told no in her entire life. For 2 years, my fiance and I worked overtime to fund our absolute dream wedding. We secured a highly exclusive, breathtaking botanical garden for our ceremony and paid for every single detail out of our own pockets. 3 months before my wedding, my sister got unexpectedly pregnant and quickly engaged. My parents panicked. They wanted her married immediately before she started showing in photos. At a family dinner, my parents sat me down and dropped a massive demand. They told me I needed to surrender my wedding date and my botanical garden venue to my sister. They argued that her situation was an emergency, while my fiance and I could easily just push our wedding back another year. I immediately refused. My parents absolutely exploded. They called me a selfish monster and threatened that if I didn't give my sister the wedding, they would boycott my marriage and convince the entire extended family to cut me off. The harassment became unbearable. So I finally smiled and agreed. I told my parents they could have the venue and the date. They were incredibly smug, praising my sister for winning and telling me I finally did the right thing for the family. But here is what my parents didn't understand about complex wedding planning. The botanical garden was just a raw, empty space. It didn't come with a single chair, table, or plate of food. Every single detail, the luxury caterers, the massive floral arches, the string quartet, the open bar, and the seating rentals were entirely separate contracts that I had personally sourced and fully paid for. I didn't cancel my vendors. Instead, my fiance and I quietly pivoted. We rented a beautiful private lakeside estate for the exact same weekend. I called all my vendors, updated the delivery address, and transferred my entire luxurious setup to our new secret location. The day of the wedding arrived. My sister, my parents, and 200 of their guests drove up to the exclusive botanical garden. My sister stepped out of her limousine in a massive white gown, ready for her stolen dream wedding. She walked into a completely empty grass field. There were no chairs for the guests, there was no altar, no music, and absolutely no food. It was just a quiet, empty park. My phone started blowing up with dozens of hysterical calls from my mother. When I finally answered, she was screaming, demanding to know where the caterers and the decorators were. I calmly replied, "You demanded the venue, so I legally transferred the venue permit to you. You never asked for my food, my chairs, or my musicians. I paid for those, and they are with me." I hung up and turned my phone off. While my fiance and I enjoyed a spectacular, fully catered private wedding with our chosen friends, my sister's guests had to stand awkwardly on the grass for 20 minutes before my parents humiliatingly ordered dozens of fast food pizzas just to feed everyone. My sister cried the entire day in her dress, and half the guests left early because there was nowhere to sit. They haven't spoken to me since, which was honestly the best wedding gift I could have ever asked for.
For 20 years, I was the emotional punching bag for my entire family until I finally snapped and gave them the exact silent treatment they always demanded. It started on a random Tuesday when my 19-year-old son slammed the front door and yelled, "Mom, give me something to eat, I am starving." I was standing in the kitchen and gently reminded him that I had packed him a lunch for college, but he left it on the counter. He aggressively rolled his eyes and snapped, "Mom, please keep your useless advice to yourself and just make the food. My day has already been terrible." I swallowed my pride and started making him a sandwich. 30 minutes later, the doorbell rang and my 17-year-old daughter walked in. I smiled and warmly asked her how her exams went, but she threw her backpack on the floor, glared at me, and yelled, "Mom, please just leave me alone and stop suffocating me." I quietly backed out of the hallway, feeling completely invisible. That evening, my husband returned from his corporate job, looking incredibly tense. I poured him a cup of coffee and tried to make gentle small talk about his day, but he slammed his briefcase down and shouted, "Just leave me alone. My boss already gave me an earful today, and now you are starting with your annoying questions." That was the exact moment something inside me completely broke. For years, I had been taking the emotional brunt of their bad days. I was expected to be their personal chef maid and emotional dumping ground while receiving absolutely zero respect in return. So starting the very next morning, I completely stopped trying. I woke up, made their breakfasts, and did the laundry, but I completely stopped speaking. When they left for the day, I didn't say goodbye. When they came home, I didn't ask about their days. I didn't smile, I didn't offer advice, and I didn't provide any comfort. I became a polite, silent ghost in my own home. This absolute freezing silence went on for 5 agonizing days. The house felt completely empty and cold without my usual warmth. Finally, on Sunday morning, all 3 of them walked into the kitchen looking incredibly panicked. My husband nervously cleared his throat and asked, "Honey, are you okay? Why have you been so terrifyingly quiet this week?" I slowly put down my coffee mug, looked at all 3 of them, and delivered the coldest reality check of their lives. I asked them plainly, "Am I just your emotional punching bag? You all come home every single day and use me to take out your frustration and bad moods. If your boss was mean to you or you failed a test, is that somehow my fault?" I told them they demanded to be left alone, so I was finally giving them exactly what they asked for. The color completely drained from their faces, and they stood there in absolute shame. My husband actually started crying, and my kids profusely apologized, begging for my forgiveness. I told them my love and my warmth are privileges, not rights, and they will have to spend a very long time earning them back.